seen in our that we have identification and authorization, or we have authentication and authorization, where we talk about IAM. And when we start talking about IAM, we start talking about roles, user, group, and policy. So yesterday we saw about two items, users and groups. Today we'll be talking about policy and roles. Now, what is a policy? Now, when you go to a bank, again, I'm coming back to my bank example. So when you go to a bank, what will happen is there will be a person or there will be a bank employee who will have a set of activities to be done. But somewhere it should be written what is his activities. Give me 1 second. Okay, so back to my bank example. So if I go to bank, there should be somewhere it should be mentioned what is his roles and responsibilities. So there will be a handbook or a user manual where manager will do so things, a bank cashier will do so things. So these things will be mentioned somewhere. Okay. Similarly, when I go to AWS, somewhere there should be a document maintained which is known as policy document, so that I come to know who has what kind of access. So basically, this is not a handwritten document, but it's a JSON document which we refer to. And this JSON document is something which I will be referring to, or I will be talking about to get my access related things. So when I say admin, so what kind of access he has? If I say IAM full access, what kind of access he has? So all these details will be known to me or will be shared to me by policies. So let's log into our console and try to see what policies are we talking about. So let me log into my console first. So this is my console and I will go to IAM. Now here I will be going with policies. So when I talk about policies, you can see policies are generally of 3 types. Okay. If you see this type, you will see the policy is either AWS managed job function, means it is managed by the job, or it is AWS managed, means AWS is managing everything, or it is customer managed. So as of now, I don't have any policy which is managed by customer, so it does not show you that, but there will be policies which will be managed by the customer. Now, each policy will tell you what access it will give. So it is a documentation. So let me start with the easiest one. The easiest one is administrator access, the most simple one which you saw. Have you started? Yes, the class has started. Kono, if you're not able to hear, please request to rejoin once. If there is an audio issue, please rejoin once, because I think we have audio clean and clear. So what we are seeing here is that we are talking about policies. And when I talk about policies, I'm talking about the JSON documentation which we have. So what I'm going to do is I will see what does it contain. So I will come here and say administrator policy or admin, put admin. It will show you what policy you have. See here, or you just put the full keyword only. ADMINISTRATOR. And you can see here administrator access will be there. Yeah, I can see here administrator access. Now for me, administrator access, if you go that towards the end, you will see it is saying grant full permission full access permission. It is telling it will grant full access permission. So now let's go ahead and see what permission is it talking about. So if I keep coming here, there's a plus button. Click on this. And now you will be able to see the JSON document which we are talking about. So if I copy this document, the JSON document which we just now came across, just by clicking on this plus button, I will go ahead and see what is being talked about. So let me take it to my notepad plus and put it here. So you can see that this documentation has a standard structure. It says version, it says statement, then it is having effect. Effect is allowed. So resource is star. So how will I read this? All the resources on AWS are allowed to do everything. Star means everything. Okay. So this is admin access. Now, if similar to this, I want to create or I want to check another access. Okay. Let me check EC2 full access. So let me come here. EC2 full. So you can see here EC2 full access. Click on this plus button. Copy this thing. Bring it here. See here. So thing which you should see here. See, version is common. So I'm not worried about version. They updated somewhere in 2012 and then they forgot it. So version stays as 2012, 10, 17. Then the statement is what I'm interested in. So how will I read? Resource means star. Means all the resources are allowed to perform all the actions on EC2 star. EC2 star means all the action items related to EC2. Okay, so this is how we read it. All the resources, star means all. So all the resources are allowed to do all the activities on EC2. So it is EC2 colon star. It is not simply star. Simply star means it will be admin rights, but it is saying EC2 star means EC2 related activity. Again, all the resources are allowed to do everything related to elastic load balancing. So we will teach you what is elastic load balancing. They are having access to CloudWatch. I'll teach you what is CloudWatch. Auto scaling. I will teach you what is auto scaling. So like this, if you see that there are certain conditions which are allowed, but most of them are related to EC2 only. Similarly, if I go to one more similar kind of access, I will go and say S3 full access. Click on this plus button, go down, copy this. See here, version, forget about it. This is some old dated version. Statement, in the statement, the effect is allowed. So resource is star, means all the resources are allowed to perform any action related to S3. S3 star means any action related to S3. S3 object Lambda. So I'll teach you what is Lambda. So Lambda related things also they will be able to work with. So these are few policies which are managed by AWS, maintained by AWS, and in future, if it has to be changed or updated or anything like that, it will be maintained and changed by Amazon only. So we say it is AWS managed. But in real world scenario, there is a high possibility that you do not use these. Rather, you go ahead and create your own policies. Okay. So let me say I will create my own policy. Now I told you policy is nothing but it's a documentation. It's a JSON documentation which will tell what rights you have, what rights you don't have. Fine. So if I have to check that or I have to create my own policy, either I should know JSON, how to write a JSON syntax. If you don't know, then I will tell you a shortcut. So let's close this. Come here and say create policy. And you can come here and either use Visual Editor or use JSON. JSON means you know the syntax and you will write the syntax directly here. So I'm assuming that you don't know what is the syntax. So you will not go with the JSON, you will go with the Visual Editor. So let's start with the Visual Editor. So this place. Now, if you come here, you will get choice. It is like a multiple choice question where you have to make the correct choice. Now, let me say I'm trying to create a policy which will give me full access to my AWS S3 item. Okay, to the storage, it should give me full access. How to create it? So first is service. Choose a service. To whom would you like to give this access? So choose a service. Here, I want to give to S3. Now in S3, there are three items: S3 outpost, S3 object, Lambda, S3. I'm only interested in S3, so I'll choose S3. In S3, what kind of action would you like to do? All the actions means read, write, tag, all the actions, or some particular action. So if some particular action means you click on that only. But for time being, I'll use all the actions on S3. So S3 colon start means all the actions. Click on this. Then keep going. In the resources section, come and say all the resources, means everybody who is logging into my account will be able to work on this. So I'm giving this as all resources. Is there any condition? So I can put some condition, like I can say that, okay, if he's logging in from MFA, then only allow him to go inside. Or if his source IP is, let me say, I can put something like this. If he is coming from 172.34.63.11/32. So if he's coming from this IP, then only allow him. If you want to add further conditions, you can add. So conditions are not mandatory, but good to have. So condition you have added. Then you can go all the way down here. Next, give a tag. Now tag is something which is not very important. Simply you can see it is optional in nature. So just say, okay, fine, I'm not giving anything. Go and say review and launch. Here it says, give me a name to the policy. So you can say my first custom policy. My first custom policy. In the description, you can say policy generated by, how are you generating it? By inline policy tool, inline policy tool. Just keep coming down. So here it is telling you that there are 325 services in AWS, out of which you have chosen S3, and in S3 you are given full access to all the resources, and you have added a condition which will allow this traffic only to come inside. Are you okay with this? You say, yeah, I'm okay, and click on this create policy. Once you click on this policy, you will see a policy got created. In turn, this policy, if you just see carefully, it is customer managed. Simple meaning is that tomorrow, if there is some update to be done, some changes to be done, you are the one who has to update the changes, or you are the one who has to make the changes. Okay. If it is AWS managed, AWS will take care of that. But it is customer managed means you will have to take care of it. Now this also will give me a JSON document. So if I come here, I can see a JSON document. Come and put it here. Now the question can be, can I use any other programming language here? The answer is no, it does not support any other programming language. So for me, the version is 2012, whatever I see always. Statement is, there is SID, means how it was generated. So it was generated by Visual Editor. So I use that inline tool policy. So it is generated by Visual Editor. The effect is allow resources star. How do I read this? All the resources are allowed to do everything related to S3, right? This is how I read this. All the resources are allowed to do all the actions related to S3. And I have a condition. The only condition is they should log in from this IP address. This should be the IP address. So if a customer is logging from this IP address, he will be able to do everything related to S3 on this account. So this is the easiest way to write a JSON template. And using this JSON template, I can design a policy which is managed by customers, or which is managed by the end user. And based on his conditions, he will say what item he would like to give access to, what item he doesn't want to give you the access. Most of the times when you start your work on a production environment, you will be using customer managed policies. Hardly you will be using any inbuilt policy, means the policy which is given to you by Amazon. So most of the time you will come across a customer managed policy. How do you identify this? It will clearly mention that it is a customer managed, but the format will remain same. You can anytime come and start making the changes. Now, this is all about policy. So policy is documentation written in JSON language. If you know JSON, very good. If you don't know JSON, come and use Visual Editor and create your own JSON policy. Done. Now, one more item which we see here is, one second. Give me one second. Okay. So one more item, what I see here is roles. Now, when I come to role, okay, so let me cross this. Now, generally, why do we have a role? So it says an IAM role is an identity you can create that has specific permissions with credentials that are valid for a short durations. Role can be assumed by entity that you trust. Now, so many lines. Now, let me keep it simple. So, come here. Now, let me say I am an individual and I want to log into AWS console. So what I need a username. I need a password. Using this username and password, I will authenticate myself. Once authenticated, I will have a policy attached to my name, and with that policy, I will get some authorization. So here what you see, an external entity is talking to some service on or inside AWS, right? He is trying to get authenticated. He has some authorization and he's trying to go inside. But many a times you will see that there is a requirement that one service of AWS, so let me say EC2, for example, wants to talk with my S3 bucket. This is an internal communication, means one service of AWS wants to talk with another service of AWS. In that case, this communication can be established via role. And we say this role is assumed in the sense that this guy is assuming this role, and basis of that, it is going and accessing my S3. So again, role can be something which can be created by the end user, and basis of that role, you can give permission to your items. So one thing I will just show you right now, I will create it later and it will be more visible or more evident to you. So I want that my EC2 should have access to my S3. So EC2 instance, which I'm creating, or a VM, which I'm creating on cloud, should be able to take any data which is there in my storage. Okay. So let me come here and say EC2. So let me just show you that. So as of now, there is one instance which is running. Now let me just go ahead. See here, if you come to action, okay, then come to security, you have something called IAM role. If you click on this, you can see here, select the IAM role to your attached to your instance or create a new role if you have not created any. The role you select replaces any role that are currently attached to the instance. Means based on this role, your EC2 instance will get access. So if I have to create one, I can create it from here, or you can create it from IAM dashboard. Same, both are taking you to the same place. See here, it is bringing you to the same place. Now here you can create a role. The only difference between role, user, group, and all those things are that role is for internal communication, and the other items for external communication. Okay, so say create a role, then it will say who is going to use this role. So AWS service, who is going to use EC2, Lambda, who is going to use. So you can come here and say that EC2 is going to use it. Okay, and next, and what access would you like to give? So I would like to give him, let me say S3 full access. Okay, so this is what I'm going to give, and I will go here and say next, give a role. So I will say AWS S3 role for EC2. Give any name of your choice. Okay, there's no problem. And this is the policy which I have used. Okay, or this is the what do you say? This is the policy, is basically this is the policy is the right word for this. And then in the permission, I'm saying S3 full access. It is AWS managed, and the policy is this. Go down and say I want to create a role. Then a role will be created. You can see here the role is getting created. So you can see AWS S3, this thing has been created. Now if you want, you can attach this role. So come here. As of now, no IAM role is there. Just refresh this. Come here, use this and say update IAM role. Now what will happen? My EC2 will be easily able to talk with my S3. Okay, it means two services of AWS can easily communicate with each other. In future classes, I will show you many a times when you start your work, you will get permission denied. Why? Because you don't have the proper permission attached. So to give that permission, you will need that role. Okay, so basically when I talk about IAM, I'm talking about authentication and authorization. When I am a user, okay, I can get programmatic access or I can go get console access. If I talk about console access, now when I go ahead, I see that I have users. I can have n number of users. I can have groups so that I can classify them as per my requirement. I have policies which will give me the JSON documentation, and I have my rules. Now there are two more things here. So there is something called access analyzer. So access analyzer is nothing but it will tell you which user is doing what activity. So you can create an analyzer, and after you create the analyzer, my admin can basically track all the activities which is happening. Let me say some anonymous user got access or some hacker got access. It's very unlikely that a hacker will get access, but still I can assume that a hacker got access. So with analyzer, you will analyze his activity, review the active findings, where he came in, how he came in, what is he trying to do. And based on that, you can take the necessary action. Voice disturbance. Okay, should not be there now. It is done, I guess. Fine. So you can use analyzer to analyze the activities. Now, yesterday somebody was asking what happens if a IAM user forgets his credential. So I will be using this credential report. So when I use this credential report, I will come to know as an admin, I will have full control, like who is using the credential, when was he last used, and is his password expiring or not. So all these details is what I can go ahead and collect. Okay, so you can read the documentation if you are interested. Now, one very good thing which Amazon gives you is login via federated user. Now this looks very fancy term, federated user. There are many websites which allow you to log in with a different credential. I will give you one example. See here. So there is a website called Pinterest. Okay, it says if you have a username and password, go ahead and provide this and log in. But in case you don't have a username and password here, you can continue with your Facebook credentials or you continue with your Google credentials. Now, this is known as federated user or identity federation. Just let me show you that word, identity, identity federation. So many a times when you go for interview, right, they will start asking some hi-fi questions. Hi-fi questions in the sense that the terminologies which they will use will be something very hi-fi. Identity federation. Now, what is this identity federation? If you want, you read through all these things. But the simple meaning of this is, if I have to explain this, let me come here. Now, let me say I have borrowed $100 from a friend of mine. $100 from a friend of mine. But due to some reason, I am not able to pay him back. Okay. I have another friend. I will say, hey, do one thing. Pay him $100 on my behalf. I will pay you later. So actually, this guy had to pay. Okay. But this guy is, sorry, this guy had to pay. But this guy is saying, I don't have money now. So friend, you pay on my behalf. I will pay you later. Okay. In short, this person will get the money and this person will not give the money to him. Rather, he will give the money to this guy. Same thing is happening here. Ideally, when I start my AWS journey, I should have my AWS credentials. Where I should have a username. I should have a password. If I'm having programmatic access, I should have access key and secret access key. So I should have these. But think, now you're working for a company called Sonata Softwares. Sonata Software. Okay. So this company, Sonata Software, will give you a username and password. It will give you an email ID. Okay. And like this, if this machine or if this company is using 10 different tools, so it will give you 10 different usernames and passwords, 10 different tools. Now, think of a situation. You are an individual who is working for a company and you have to remember 10 different credentials. Why? Because the company is using 10 different tools. On top of that, company's own username and password is also there. Email ID and password is there. So it will be a hectic thing for you because there are so many tools. Let me say I'm using Jenkins, I'm using Ansible, I'm using Docker, I'm using Kubernetes, I'm using AWS. So there are 10 different machines or 10 different tools I'm using, and every tool has its own username and password. So I have to remember all these things. Okay. On top of that, I have to remember my company's username and password and AWS username and password. So this is not a good way of operating. So to work on this, companies enable something called SSO. So SSO is single sign-on. Single sign-on means with one credential, I will log in everywhere. The same login ID will work in Jenkins. It will work in AWS. It will work in Kubernetes. It will work on Outlook. It will work when I'm logging to my account. So all these things will work with single sign-on, SSO. Now, how does it work? So there is something called federation or identity federation. So when you log into your company's account, log in to company portal. Okay. They have something called AD or Active Directory. This AD will contain your company's username and password. Okay, so you have username and password. Done. Now, I am saying you will use SSO. So suppose you have an AWS account. So what is AWS expecting? That you should create your own username and password. So it is expecting that it should have its own username and password. So in my example, this is the friend whom I have to pay money. This is me. Now I introduce something called SSO or single sign-on, and I will say, so I will say, I will log into SSO or single sign-on, and automatically AWS will be validated. So similar thing, I took $100 from my friend, but I'm not able to return him. So I was supposed to pay him. I'm not able to pay. I ask my friend, and my friend will pay this. So this way of operating is known as identity federation. You kind of change your identity, you kind of mask your identity, and on your behalf, someone else goes and logs in. Why is this required? Because when I'm working as a single user, so as of now, I'm a single user. So I have a username and password, and I can remember and I can go and do everything. But when I work for an organization, I will have 10 different tools: Jenkins, Git, Ansible, Docker, Kubernetes, Jira, Nexus, Outlook. So I cannot remember username and password for everyone. It is not possible. So we enable SSO. Okay. Now, let me see the same thing on my AWS console. How is it working? So let me come here. And when you come to IAM, there is something called identity provider. Click on this. Identity provider means somebody else on your behalf can do this SSO or single sign-on. Okay, so you can add a provider and then you can start your work. But this thing I can show you in a different way also. There is something called Cognito. So Cognito means you will be using federated identities, means somebody else will be validating your AWS credentials. So let me go here to Cognito. And here you can say manage user pool. So user pool means hundreds and thousands of users will be there. So if you have a user pool, means you have 100 users, 500 users, all stored in your Active Directory. You can create a user pool, give a name. Let me say Sonata Software, Sonata Software Employees. Okay. So I'll not go by step. I'll simply do the default one. Okay. So email is via which they will log in. Just come down here and say create a pool. So as of now, I'm using all the default features to create a pool. Now, once I create a pool, okay, here you come. There is something called identity provider. Click on this. Now see here. These can be your identity providers. You can log in via Facebook. You can log in via Google. You can log in via Amazon account. You can log in via your Apple account. SAML is a type of authentication, or OpenID Connect. Now, OpenID Connect and all are your Active Directories. Okay. So if you say SAML, so SAML is nothing but you tell where your users are. So corporate identity provider. So basically Active Directory and all where your username and password are stored, you bring it here and you will be able to do SAML federation. Similarly, you can come to OpenID Connect. Here also you get the client ID and allow him to log in via OpenID Connect. So basically what I'm trying to show you here is that I will use a third-party app to authenticate yourself on AWS, similar to something what is here. So it says if you have a username and password, you can log into this website. Means you someday you signed up and you created one username and password, so you can come and do that. But I also trust Facebook. So if you log in via Facebook, I'm okay. I will allow you to go inside. I also trust Google. So if you log in via Google, then also I'll allow you to go inside. Similarly, in AWS, I can use identity federation. I can use a cognito user pool, and I can say, okay, go ahead and log in via Facebook, via Google, via Apple account, via Amazon account, or SAML authentication. So SAML, if you go right, these are some security topics which will be not in detail covered, but SAML is a SAML authentication token. So basically you get a token for that. So there is SAML authentication. This is a way of authenticating a person before he logs in. So basically a third party will do your identity federation, or he will give you the credentials, and basis of that, you will go ahead and log in. Okay. So this is all about IAM, where I am mostly talking about authentication and authorization. I spoke about users, group, policy, and roles. Then I talked about access analyzer, how much access, who is doing, and all those things. Then I talked about custom policy creation. And then I spoke about your identity federation or cognito way of accessing the stuff. So this is what we have done. Here you will basically need a domain name and all those things to show you a demo of all these things. I don't have a domain name, so I can't show you a demo of all these things, but this can be done. Anyhow, for solution architect associate level or any exam at associate level, you don't have to go in depth and understand all these things. Okay. As and when this IAM will be needed in the coming classes, so I'll again come here and talk about this. But as of now, IAM is this much. So any questions if you have related to IAM, you can please go ahead. I will unmute you from my side. If you have any questions, you can go ahead. Okay. Anyone having any questions? Again, this is also
one question.
Yeah.
I don't know, like not sure this question comes in IAM, but just to know, for example, if I create a virtual machine, for like in Windows or Ubuntu, for that virtual machine, I want to allow only few users to log in and not all, or some group of users I need only need to allow to that log into that VM. So will this how that concept comes, where it comes here?
Yes. See, if you only want few of your users to log, so let me say this is an EC2 instance. Okay. So if you see this EC2 instance, you can do two levels of check here. One is go to security, go to IAM, go to security group, and then security group. And in the inbound section, you tell who will be logging in. So how he will log in. So let me say the individual who is trying to log in. So let me say the individual who is trying to log in, he will log in from a particular custom TCP is okay. He will log in from, let me say, HTTPS, which is 443, or let me put it like this, HTTPS. So this is one way, HTTPS 443, and you can tell that, okay, this user IP address is 172.32.63.11/32. So this user's IP address is this much. So this is one way of restricting the user. So this user will only be able to log in via this IP address. This is one way of doing it. Second way of doing it can be, you can go ahead to your policy. So IAM policy is what we're talking about. And in the IAM policy, let it come up first. In the IAM policy, you can create a IAM policy, a custom IAM policy. And like how I have done here, you add a condition, something like this, that I will allow only this user to log in. Okay, something like this. You can put the user credentials in the sense his name, that user name should be this, and then only he should be allowed to log in. So these things can be put in the condition. If you put that in the condition, then attach it to your EC2, then you can restrict him.
Okay, for example, like if there is a group of like developers, something is some group is there. If, for example, after the few months, there will be new members will also come, right? So every time if the new members are coming.
So in that case, you create a group. Okay. In the group, you assign them permissions, whatever permission you have created, you assign them and keep adding the users. So let me say 4 new members have joined. So you add those users to the group. Now all the members are gone. Remove them from the group. That's it.
No, my question is, for example, only those developers group only need to access that virtual machine.
Then
so
see.
That,
in that case, you have to create a custom policy. Okay. In the custom policy, you have to mention that condition.
Yeah, that's my like in the condition. No, you said some. You need to mention some user, whatever the name and all.
So you say user. So in the condition, you mention user group equal to developer. Then only developers will be able to access it. And then when you're creating this group, attach this policy. So this is the policy, right? So in user group, suppose this is the developer. So come here and you can see right here, there will be a, here there will be a permission. So you attach this permission, whatever policy you have created. So that is one way of giving the access.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
Yep. Anyone having any more questions here?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, please.
Okay, I got started at a point a bit, had to take care of something, sorry about that. I usually have a problem trying to link an IAM policy with an EC2 and an S3 bucket, for example.
Okay.
So I don't know if you did that or
yes. So the EC2 part was done. The S3 part will come when I teach you S3, but EC2 thing I can show you right now. So let me say I have an EC2 instance which is running here. So this is my EC2 and I want to link it with a policy. Okay. So I can just come down here. So this is my machine. Come here, go to actions, go to security, and here you get this modify IAM rule. And then you can link that here, whatever you have. You can link and just update the IAM rule. That's it. So as of now, it is in stop state. So it is failing, but if it is in running state, it will definitely get attached. The S3 part I will be covering when I cover S3.
Okay, thank you so much. This is even a more easier way of doing it. Just go create the policy and then create the EC2 and then come to the security and then you add it there. That's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any more questions here? Okay, fine. So please get in touch with your coordinators. The coordinators will share you the slides. They will share the recordings with you and the invite. So see you then, guys. Bye-bye.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi. Actually, I've tried to get in touch with the coordinator regarding WhatsApp groups and all, but I still see no WhatsApp group.
Okay. Your name is Sneha. Fine, Sneha. I'll ask your coordinator. So your coordinator's name, you remember, right?
I don't know. I've been pinging him, but I don't know his name. Sneha and Roshni. Both of us are trying to get in touch with him.
Okay, fine. I'll just let the
me as well, Vikas, Ravindra.
Okay, fine. I'll just
okay.
I'll see. You can see. Fine. I will ask with them. So Sneha.
Sir, sorry for the interruption. I'll add them by tomorrow morning, sir.
Okay, fine. So this is your coordinator. Okay, please get in touch with him. So he has your details.
Okay.
Ping him in personal and he will add you to those.
Okay, thank you.
This is Mohammed.
Mohammed.
I need help from my coordinator too.
Yeah. So see, the coordinators are working, but I believe there is a different time zone thing. So it will take a day or two, initial hiccups, but we will be able to sort it out. Just give us a day or two. It will be sorted.
Vikas, can we add more than one rule to one service?
Yes, you can add, see, add any number of service. Now let me just come here. So let me say, this is your policy. So let me just come here, Control Z. So this is one policy, one set of statement. So assume that you have more items to be added. So you can come here and just replicate this. There's no problem. So another set of policy here, I'm giving EC2. And here I don't have any source condition. So these permutation combinations can be done.
Okay.
Fine. Okay, guys, see you then. The coordinators will get in touch with you and they will do the work as soon as possible.
Hello?
Yep.
Tanima this side. Actually, I am having a same issue. So I have asked my coordinator for adding me to a WhatsApp group, but still I am not added.
Okay, can you all do one thing? You will be able to see there is something called Agile Technologies host.
Sir, I know all of them, sir. I know I'll add all of them, sir, in another half an hour. No worries.
Okay, so your problem will be sorted before tomorrow you come to class. It will be sorted.
Yeah, and another thing is I need to ask, for example, so if I want to give one user one permission, okay, and I want to omit the permission from the user. Okay, means first I gave one permission to the user and then I want to omit that permission. So is there some exception I can add to the user that this user will not be only able to log in and except that everyone will be able to log in?
No. See, actually, if you go back, so Venkat, your question is you are having 14 years of experience. Will I able to get a job? Definitely you can. Thing is, you will have to do additional work. So if others are doing 2 hours, you will have to do 4 hours. But yes, there are jobs. Numbers are less, but yes. See, so just coming to your question. Now, when you say user, okay, so let me add a user. So let me just say the username is Ravi. Now, if you see here, there is no place where I can restrict the user or do anything like that. Okay. So all these things, whatever you're doing, right, you do at a group level. Okay. You can attach existing policy directly to the user here. So let me say you want to give him a certain kind of access. So you can do it from here. But the problem will be that when you're managing users individually, then it will be a nightmare for you, because in a big organization, you will have 1,000 employees. Managing them manually will be difficult. So we basically create groups and we put them into groups, and managing via groups is a better option than managing them manually.
Okay, got it.
Fine. See you then, guys. Tomorrow we will resume from the place where we have left. Okay, so we tomorrow start with storage. Storage is S3. Okay, so we'll start with storage. See you then, guys, tomorrow. Bye-bye.